Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today we're here to celebrate an anniversary of mine. No, not a wedding anniversary, not a girlfriend anniversary. I'm still single, probably always will be at this point. It's my anniversary of reviewing video games on this YouTube channel, which was actually one of the first things that I did. Technically, my channel started on January 1st, 2013 with The Great Embrace, which was a song that I wrote on Facebook that I originally thought would just be a poem, and then people liked it enough that they said, Paul, you should make it into a song. So I got on my couch in my living room and I tinkered around with some chords, and after about 2 hours I had it memorized. And then as soon as my sister hit the play button on the camera, I did it in one take. I have since privated that video just because of certain reasons I don't want to discuss, but we do have a remake of that video, which is The Great Embrace with drums, where my brother is playing the drums in the background. And honestly, even all these years later, I think that's one of the best videos I've ever done. But 2016 was what I call the official birthday of my channel, because I had so much trouble with my uploader cable in those first 3 years that I think I uploaded maybe like 5 or 6 videos from 2013 to 2015. So right after I got back from that conference in 2016 that got me out of depression, that same conference also inspired me to start regularly uploading. I'm pretty sure it was like the day after I got home. I got on my computer and I found that I still had Windows Movie Maker, which I'm pretty sure was outdated at that time, but I said, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway. And it was just me in front of the camera. I still had my space heater. I was still living in a garage, a refurbished garage to make it a comfortable bedroom. I don't want you to think I was living in poverty, but still very cold without that space heater. And I didn't have a capture card back then, so everything was just my face. I'm pretty sure the first project I ever did that had something different than just my face, at least since the birthday of the channel, was my Catholic Heartwork Camp reflective slideshow video. But it wasn't until I think it was 2018 that I finally got a capture card and was able to review games with footage. And I was so proud of this capture card because it was a lot of money. Back then it wasn't as hard as it is now, but I definitely remember thinking I just have to have this so that I can keep up with modern review trends. And I ended up, whenever I would review a game with footage, I'd delete the original version without it so that people could only see the new and improved, this is how you review video games. You don't just make a bunch of hand gestures like in the past. Credit where credit is due. In my earliest videos to make up for my lack of footage, I would usually try to do something like silly or creative to make it at least somewhat interesting. Like sometimes I'd have Phoenix Wright interject if I have an unpopular opinion, or I'd like play some of the voice acting from my 3DS, which was sitting right next to me, or I'd like make jokes. I was heavily inspired by the Wii Viewer. I would say that he's by far the biggest inspiration for this channel, and I really don't like it when people compare me to anyone else, because most of the people they compare me to haven't even heard of. But his general style of reviewing very much carried over, not so much in the first couple of reviews, but around the time his Paper Mario Color Splash review came out, that's when I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try this. While also at the same time being Paul-ish enough so that it seemed like the kind of thing that only I would make. So over the years, there's definitely been quite a lot of struggles with trying to get my reviews to be as professional as possible. I went through so many microphones, it's ridiculous. It wasn't until 2022, when I was reviewing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, that I learned how to edit out my pauses. Because before, I would just try to do everything in one continuous take, or I'd leave in the pauses, or I'd leave in the ums and the coughing. Makes it painful to look back at my short hike review as a result. But yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was the turning point as far as knowing how to edit it out so that my sentences flowed a bit further. It was when I was making my Best Games of 2021 video that I learned how to add audio tracks. It was actually as I was editing the part for Game of the Year, which was Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, that I didn't want to just keep replaying the music from the game over and over again. I wanted it to fit the mood of my guest, Misaki Todoroki, with whatever she was saying. So I said, oh, there's a spot here for music. What if I just do this? And from there on, I tried to add music tracks to my reviews as much as possible going forward. As far as other milestones with regards to reviewing, like I said, 2018 was when I started doing capture card footage. So my very first video review was Little Inferno for the Wii U. Ugh, what a one to start out on now that the Wii U eShop is dead. That's another thing that I feel super honored about, is when I started reviewing video games, the latest Nintendo systems were the Wii U and the 3DS, and technically the Wii if you count those Just Dance games. So it has now been 2 console generations later. It feels so surreal that I've like kind of switched to bigger and better horizons. To this day, even though the Switch 2 is out, the system that I've reviewed the most games for is the Switch. I'm pretty sure the 3DS is after that, and then the Wii U. Yeah, I covered the Wii U probably a lot more than most independent channels of the time. Never got around to the Bayonetta games, though. I heard those are pretty popular. Or the Splatoon games. I've never been good at shooters. Maybe Splatoon Raiders will be the turning point. I remember 2024 was when I got this microphone that I'm using now. And that was the point where I started to realize that I really needed to find a way to eliminate stuff like puffing noises. And to this day, they're still there if I listen to my reviews with headphones, but not when I just listen to them with computer speakers. So if, hypothetically, you've listened to one of my reviews between 2024 and 2026, and you thought, man, Paul, you keep bumping into your microphone and peaking, try listening to it with just your laptop's audio and not with headphones, and see if that makes a difference. Because I kid you not, I have never found a review since I started using this microphone that I thought the audio was bad for when I was just listening without headphones, except for Tears of the Kingdom. But even then, that got a lot of likes, so people must have been able to look past it. 2023 was the year that Tears of the Kingdom was my game of the year. And my friend Matt composed a piece of music for the occasion, which I dubbed Paul's Epic Theme. And he just thought that that would be just a one-off thing, and people wouldn't think anything of it. But I loved that piece of music so much that I started making it the official theme song for the channel, so that I'd have it like playing at the end of my reviews, and eventually it played at the end of all of my videos. The end screen, that was around mid-2024 that I implemented that. Esabelle made both versions of it, and Ty the One-Up guy drew the Paper Paul avatar that made its debut with the Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door remake review. Honestly, I think that remake is one of my most successful reviews because it has, I think, like 64 likes. Usually I'm lucky enough to get 5. And it's got over 1,000 views. Usually I'm lucky enough to get over 300. I'm not really sure how to describe patterns in like what reviews do good and what don't. The only thing I can think of is like if it's something free, usually that does well. Like when I reviewed Opus Castle Chapter 1, that review, oh my gosh, that review has like probably 3,000 views by now. Both my Hello Mario and Hello Yoshi reviews have done spectacular. But then sometimes like a major game will come out and I'll think it'll get good views, and then it won't. Like, I don't think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 did all that well, or Mario Party Superstars. It could be that it wasn't until after my Life is Strange True Colors review that someone pointed out that even though I had an HD capture card, and it said I was capturing the footage in HD, I forgot that I had to manually toggle that in my editing software. And so people would say, why are your videos only at 360p or 480p? And I'd be like, wait, what? No one told me that. That was the turning point as far as like making the video footage high quality. There's a part of me that almost wants to take down those old videos. But at the same time, like, I feel like a lot of the video games that I reviewed on the Switch have such a good art style that, like, even at 480p, they still look doable. They're just maybe grainy and you can't make out too much detail, but, like, you can make out enough detail. Because sometimes I've looked back at those old reviews and I'll be like, yeah, that video quality could have been better. But at the same time, like, some of those have aged surprisingly well, despite being in 480p. And I think it's because Nintendo first-party games tend to just prioritize art style over photorealism. So I completely lost my train of thought earlier there. So I thought I'd do a quick speed run of the best highlights of every single year that I've been reviewing video games. And I won't go too much in depth. Maybe I'll do this in a follow-up video because I have a whole folder on my desktop called 10 years of reviews, where it has like the top 10 this, top 10 that, and pretty sure one of them is the top 10 games I've reviewed, not counting 2026 because I want you guys to be not spoiled for my best games. But games of the year for every single year that I've reviewed games thus far. 2016, Zero Time Dilemma. 2017, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the Wii U version specifically. 2018, not even a contest, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. 2019 was Fire Emblem Three Houses. 2020, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. 2021 was Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, of all things. But again, read those side stories and you'll see why. 2022 was AI The Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative. Very unpopular pick back then. Everyone else was saying Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which only ended up being number 4 that year, actually. 2023 was Tears of the Kingdom, which is my favorite video game, so of course. 2024 was Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. And finally, the Big 10 2025 Kirby Air Riders. Yes, I made a mistake in my Best Games of 2025 video, where I said that the only year that I had Kirby games was in 2022. I forgot that I have since edited my old lists of games. So in 2019, I had Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn at number 8. And when I did my revisiting previous games of the year list, I switched things around so that Epic Yarn wasn't on there anymore. I still think Epic Yarn was a lot of fun if you have an amiibo that gives you a sword power-up, which I'm pretty sure only works with Meta Knight. Correct me if I'm wrong. Games of the Year videos have always been my favorite to make on this channel. So it was around 2018 that I started doing that. And my friends have given me very interesting feedback. They've said, Paul, your videos show a clear progression of upward trajectory in quality every single year that you make one. And honestly, I kind of have to agree. Like 2018 started out as like a kind of a my first YouTube video kind of thing where like I mostly just took clips from each of my reviews and called it a day. Like, I don't even think there was any music in that video. Then 2019, I started out with Banjo and Kazooie and K. Rool to make the opening speech a bit more interesting than just my mug. 2020 was just, I don't know, just better because it was all Switch games instead of 3DS games. So I was able to feel proud of the fact that I had footage for all of these games. 2021, that was the year that I had my first collaboration for these end-of-year videos. I had Misaki Todoroki come on and talk about why she also thought Doki Doki Literature Club Plus was her game of the year. We always joke around that she and I share a brain, and 2 years in a row we had the same game of the year. Although I do think her saying DDLC Plus is the best soundtrack ever, I don't know if I can agree with that, but definitely my favorite of 2021. 2022, that was also a year where Todoroki came back, except that she wasn't able to do a voiceover, so she ended up writing a script. And she said she really liked my impression of her voice. That was also the infamous year where I got Kevin Brading, the voice of the narrator in Stanley Parable, to reprise his role to talk about how I only made Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe number 2. And to this day, I find it so surprising that this is the case. People have watched my standalone video where I just said, here's what Kevin Brading said. They've watched that more than double the amount of views I got for the actual Best Games 2022 video. I think people just wanted to hear more Kevin Brading and they didn't care about the context. I don't know, I just find it weird. You'd think like, okay, if Kevin Brading is saying only number 2, I bet your number 1 game is a bunch of nonsense. You'd think people would say, how can I find out what Paul's number 1 game is? I have since learned that I was born in the wrong generation, so I don't understand internet logic, but yeah, it was a lot of fun to make the Best Games of 2022, and that was when I started using transitions between each game. I tried to make the fireworks display change for every game to make it look more and more intense. And then for 2023, that was the first year that Esabelle helped me out. So she did like the voiceovers for the emblem summonings because I wanted it to be based off of Fire Emblem Engage. Ironic, considering that ended up only being number 9 on my list. And she even cosplayed as Alear when I had her summon Link for Tears of the Kingdom. That was also the same year that Matt composed Paul's epic theme, as I mentioned earlier, so it had a whole bunch of stuff going for it. But I loved Esabelle's Alear cosplay so much that I said, let's do that for next year. Because in 2024, we had both Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door and Princess Peach Showtime, which both took place on a stage. In the case of Princess Peach Showtime, Peach changed into different outfits, so I thought, it's perfect! Let's just be inspired by those games and have Esabelle dress up in costume for each game. We did it on an actual stage with real curtains. You could even see the curtains flutter in the breeze whenever Esabelle and I made dramatic movements. We had stand-up comedy at the end. There was a sing-along song that was originally going to be a duet, but neither of us knew music theory, so we just said, yeah, it's just too hard to coordinate. We'll just have sing-along lyrics instead. We even filmed an extended ending where I was making fun of people that sexualize women even when they're in modest swimsuits. So you can find that in the bonuses and bloopers of my Best Games of 2024 video. I didn't make it a standalone video because I wanted there to be some context to it, as opposed to people just randomly seeing Esabelle complaining about being in a swimsuit and being like, Paul, you were that mean to her? Like, I wanted there to be this expectation of like, okay, it was... Not only was it playing with the joke of Paul's a really bad presenter and he treats his employees terribly, but also, like, so many people are like, oh no, a woman wears a one piece and that's so sexual. Like, I just wanted to make fun of those kinds of people. Best Games 2024, I was just really proud of that. The audio turned out fantastic. Music tracks were really good. It wasn't until the following year that I learned how to get rid of the black borders on the end. That's what I meant to say when I said I lost my train of thought. So 2025, that was a bit of a lighter year as far as Esabelle's involvement. I had her dress up in the Pauline dress and, again, play again with the joke that, you know, I was this terrible person, and we came like full circle, which unintentionally made for some brilliant poetry in the video that... Unfortunately, not a single person noticed, or at least they didn't comment on it, where by the end of the video, I did the speech to Esabelle saying how I would be sad if she ever quit, and then in that same speech, she responded by saying she had no intention of quitting, so I thought it would be awkward if we left it at that, because she did step down after we filmed that. So we ended up having her dress up in, like, all of the costumes she'd ever done, except Iris, because she didn't want to show her belly button. And I thought that it was just an absolutely brilliant moment. She came full circle as being the host when I kicked her off the stage in the first one, and it let people know, like, these are all the costumes she's ever dressed up in the entirety of her doing views, again, except for Iris. I kind of wish more people would have pointed that out to me, been like, oh, I like the poetry there, but alas... The internet works by its own rules sometimes. But then again, so do I. I think I would have been more proud of my Best Games of 2025 if I had more time without Esabelle quitting halfway through the video. I think that would have made me feel more proud of it. It was still a special video to make because my friends Matt and Danielle are some of the biggest supporters of my Best Games videos. They've been watching them with me ever since 2022. And they keep saying it gets better every single year. And they really liked how, you know, this was the first year that I had switched 2 games on there, so everything was much shinier. And I specifically arranged the footage in such a way that I wanted it to appeal just to them. And if no one else liked it except for those 2, I would have still considered the video a success. So, yes, did the video go on overly long? Yes. Did it not have enough Esabelle? Yes. But at the same time, I realized who my biggest fans were. And I really catered to those specific fans because, again, people don't let me know what they like about the videos except for those 2. So I said, well, if everyone else is going to be quiet, I'm going to listen to the people that actually talk. It seems to have worked because so far I haven't gotten a single dislike on that video, and all of the comments have been pretty positive. So I think it turned out okay, even if it didn't quite get the views of 2024, which, you know, I don't blame it. 2024, we went all out. At this point, I'm really proud of how my reviews are turning out. I like how I'm able to do audio tracks. I learned how to get rid of the black borders, although when I review Switch 2 games, it just automatically gets rid of it. So thankfully there was only one game, which was Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, where I had to manually zoom it in. One thing I will say though real quick is that Esabelle actually had next to no involvement with almost anything in that video besides like the structured skits where you knew she was talking. Like obviously, you know, the thing where she was in the Pauline dress she worked on, and then the gag about Help Wanted 2. But as far as like the actual like 10 through 1, like the transitional skits and, you know, the video footage that I did, pretty much all of that was me. So whenever I made fun of her for making a mistake, that was entirely me. Because again, we wanted to keep the ongoing joke that I was this terrible boss and that I was so bad that I would blame Esabelle for my own mistakes. So if anyone didn't catch that joke, maybe go rewatch it and be like, oh, so that time that you showed footage of the Wii version of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD instead of the Switch version, that was you, that wasn't Esabelle. So I think I've rambled on long enough, but I hope you guys get the gist that reviews are a real passion for me on this channel, and besides my end-of-year videos, they're my favorite videos to make. So thank you very much if you've supported any of my reviews. If not, thank you for your support elsewhere, because I know I have a pretty vast audience that have a bunch of different preferences, and that's what I love about the Catholic Gaming Nerd, is it's a multifaceted channel. Ever since the beginning, it was meant to be a variety channel. And 2016 was really when I started leaning into this idea of let's just post whatever the heck I want and hope that I bring people closer to Jesus in the process. And I'd like to think that my approach is more subtle whenever I'm not in my live streams, and subtlety often is what people need. Like, just preaching and talking about fire and brimstone is probably going to turn people away from Jesus. So talking more about his love and his mercy, and especially relating it to video games, I think is a bit more of a diplomatic way of approaching it, and I've gotten some good feedback from it. So I hope that you will continue supporting me as I keep the Catholic Gaming Nerd going for, I would like it to be forever, but I'm only mortal. I'm going to die at some point, but as long as I still draw breath and have a computer and, you know, actually able to do it, you can bet that the Catholic Gaming Nerd is going to continue reviewing video games, or at the very least still exist forever and ever and ever and ever and ever until I die. Hopefully that won't be for a while now, because my doctors keep saying I'm in pretty much peak health. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite review was, or if you don't remember any of them, what your favorite best games video was. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!